From the music world, R&B legend D'Angelo has passed. Born Michael Eugene Archer, the singer-songwriter went on to win 4 Grammy Awards, his family saying that he died after a battle with pancreatic cancer.
D'Angelo knew his time was ending, but no one realized how much he had prepared for it. When the doors to his Manhattan apartment, the place he took his last breath, finally opened, what they found left everyone speechless. His son, now the keeper of his legacy, uncovered a man who'd been quietly saying goodbye through his art. Even Questlove hinted that D'Angelo's final secrets were deeper than anyone imagined. What hidden truths did D'Angelo leave behind? Join us as we uncover the untold story of D'Angelo's final legacy and the secrets that are still hidden in his music. A lost battle. No one suspected anything was wrong, which made the news of D'Angelo's passing even more heartbreaking. The soul legend, whose voice once carried so much warmth and emotion, had quietly been battling pancreatic cancer. He was only 51. As fans and fellow artists struggled to take it in, tributes have continued to pour in, each one emphasizing the same truth. His music touched hearts in ways words never could. His family, speaking with both pride and sorrow, shared that D'Angelo left behind a legacy of extraordinarily moving music, urging everyone to keep his spirit alive by celebrating the gift of song he has given to the world. One thing most people came to realize was that D'Angelo knew his time was limited, but he chose to keep the news to himself. The first signs of trouble were sudden weight loss and constant fatigue, but he thought it was just work catching up to him. When it became alarming, he went for a checkup, and when the results came back, he realized he was slowly dying. The pancreatic cancer was diagnosed late, leaving him in despair. D'Angelo did not want people's pity or to be followed around with sorrowful glances.
It's not going to just be one group. It's not going to be one album that does this. It's going to be a movement. It's going to be all of us.
So he chose silence and decided to use the time he had left for closure. He reached out to his old friends and people he had worked with over the years, producers, musicians, engineers, and folks from the Voodoo and Black Messiah days. Not to say he was sick, just to talk, to say thank you, to fix old wounds and finish conversations that had been left hanging for years. Questlove, the man D'Angelo labeled as his brother, got a call. So did Raphael Saadiq. Maxwell, too. None of them knew they were talking to him for the last time. They just thought it was D'Angelo being D'Angelo, reaching out after years of quiet. Later, they realized he'd been saying goodbye in his own way. He was using the little time he had to find peace. What D'Angelo left behind was more than a legacy of timeless music and heartbroken loved ones. It was a possession that no one saw coming. Hidden within his assets were surprises that left even those closest to him stunned. What were these shocking discoveries? More than just a legacy. At the time of his passing, D'Angelo was believed to have a net worth of about $1 million, a modest figure that hardly reflected the depth of his influence on modern music. His journey began in 1993 when he secured a record deal that quickly showcased his rare blend of soul, jazz, and R&B. Just a year later, his breakout single You Will Know introduced his smooth vocals and heartfelt lyricism to a broader audience, setting the stage for a groundbreaking career. By 1995, D'Angelo released Brown Sugar, an album that didn't just mark his arrival, but helped define the sound of neo-soul for an entire generation. Its warm rhythms and honest emotion captivated listeners, earning platinum certification and positioning him as one of the genre's most authentic voices. 5 years later, he reached a new creative peak with Voodoo, a project that debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. The album won him 2 Grammy Awards and cemented his reputation as a visionary artist who blends deep funk grooves with raw vulnerability.
I want to thank D'Angelo for believing in the power of orchestral music to surround an R&B song.
Despite his growing fame, D'Angelo gradually withdrew from public life in the years that followed. The pressures of success, coupled with personal challenges, led him to take an extended break from the spotlight. Yet, even in his absence, his influence continued to ripple through the music industry. His signature sound, A fusion of soul's intimacy and R&B's rhythm became a model for a new generation of artists. Musicians such as The Weeknd and Bruno Mars would later draw from the foundation he built, infusing his style into their own chart-topping hits. In 2014, after more than a decade away, D'Angelo made a triumphant return with Black Messiah. The album was not only a comeback, but also a statement of artistic conviction, blending politically charged lyrics with rich, layered production. It reminded fans and critics alike of his unmatched ability to merge emotion with musical precision. Black Messiah received widespread acclaim, praised for its depth and authenticity at a time when mainstream music often leaned toward formulaic sounds. In his later years, D'Angelo continued to explore his creativity beyond traditional albums. His haunting contributions to the Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack introduced his soulful tone to a new audience. In contrast, his work on the soundtrack for The Book of Clarence reflected his ongoing desire to evolve as an artist. Reports suggested he had been working on new material before his passing, hinting that his artistic story was far from finished. D'Angelo's legacy reaches beyond chart positions or awards. He represented a commitment to honesty in music.
I want to give honor and thanks and love to God, from whom all blessings flow.
A refusal to compromise the soul for commercial appeal. Each note, each pause, carried intention and emotion. His work inspired both listeners and fellow musicians to slow down and feel, to reconnect with the essence of what makes music timeless. As news of his death spread, tributes poured in from across the industry. Artists and fans alike confessed about how his sound had shaped their own creative paths. Many remembered the strength in his presence, his ability to make complex emotions sound effortless. But most people remained unaware of the darkness he struggled with. Before he disappeared from the spotlight, things took a strange turn. His behavior became unpredictable, erratic enough to leave even those closest to him puzzled. Whispers started swirling, rumors spread, and no one seemed to know what was really happening. What went down between the peak of Voodoo and the moment D'Angelo vanished from the scene? A period of reclusiveness. After Voodoo blew up, D'Angelo disappeared from the spotlight. But stepping away doesn't really describe what happened. It wasn't some calm decision to rest. It was darker than that. He started drinking too much, using stuff he shouldn't, and the weight he'd lost for the untitled video turned into something dangerous. He became obsessed with staying perfect, spending hours in the gym, barely eating, and chasing an image that was starting to destroy him. He'd always been naturally slim, but now he looked frail. His energy dipped, his confidence slipped, and even his voice started to fade. By 2001, things had gone off the rails. At a European festival, he showed up drunk, forgot his own lyrics, and stumbled through the show. Of course, people talked. Everyone in the business saw it. Some stopped calling. Some quietly moved on. The humiliation was everywhere, and he knew it.
To a fault, I think that I kind of put myself in the bubble.
Then came another heavy hit in 2006. J Dilla died? To most, he was a brilliant producer. To D'Angelo, he was one of the few who really understood what he was trying to do. Losing him tore something open. D'Angelo pulled back even more. He'd book studio time, sometimes at crazy rates, then never show. The people waiting didn't know what to do. Questlove tried to help. Alan Leeds, his manager, tried too. But it was falling apart faster than anyone could fix. In 2005, he got arrested in Virginia for drug possession, and that mugshot spread everywhere. The industry took the hint. Too risky, too unstable. That same year, he nearly died in a car crash. His SUV flipped several times, and it's a miracle he survived. One would think that would change everything, but it didn't. At least not overnight. It just made things a little clearer. Even in the middle of all that chaos, before he completely disappeared, D'Angelo had already created something years ahead of its time. What made those Voodoo sessions so powerful? The obsession that saved him. Before the chaos, there was the studio. Electric Lady Studios in New York was D'Angelo's whole universe. He worked like someone on a mission, almost spiritual about it. Time disappeared there. Just him, Questlove on drums, Pino Palladino on bass, and Mike Campbell on guitar. That core group built the heartbeat of what later got called the Soulquarians, a loose family that included Erykah Badu, Common, Mos Def, artists all trying to stretch what black music could sound like at the end of the 90s. Questlove once said those sessions felt like 12-hour conversations with rhythm, and that's exactly what they were. It wasn't the usual recording setup where you play your part and head home. D'Angelo would play almost everything himself: bass, drums, and Fender Rhodes, layering piece after piece until the track felt like it was breathing. He stuck to analog tape on purpose. He wanted warmth, not polish. Every song had to feel human. Back then, most R&B was moving towards slick digital precision. D'Angelo went the other way. Real instruments, long takes, searching for feeling instead of flawlessness. Engineer Russell Elevado called it a kind of ritual, something close to obsession. D'Angelo and Questlove would play with timing so subtly it almost felt accidental, but that imperfection made it groove harder. They'd later joke and call it drunk drumming. Musicians had to listen differently, to react instead of just following a chart. They played off each other like a live conversation.
There were certain songs that I felt it lost something.
And that's what made it so alive. Some days the sessions ran 12 or 15 hours. D'Angelo would sing take after take, layering his own voice until it hit that strange balance between control and emotion. And if the song didn't feel true, he'd scrap it completely. One track, 1,000 Deaths, sat in the vault for 14 years before showing up on Black Messiah, rewritten with lyrics that fit the unrest of 2014. Those Voodoo sessions were more like experiments than recording sessions, a kind of laboratory for a new kind of soul music. The goal wasn't hits or charts. It was groove, emotion, something that couldn't be faked. And that same perfectionism is what made the record timeless. But it also made him hard to work with, at least for the people trying to keep him on schedule or on budget. That's the thing about D'Angelo. The same intensity that isolated him and nearly wrecked his career is the very thing that made Voodoo last. It changed the way people produced music, shaped a generation, and proved that chasing a feeling, not a formula, can make something that never dies. His life paid the price for it, but the music? That's still alive. Where did that obsession even come from? What was that first spark that somehow built the base for everything he'd chase later in life? A fate set, in stone. Back in 1995, when D'Angelo dropped Brown Sugar, it all started from this rough demo tape he'd made in a basement. The sound wasn't polished. It wasn't radio ready. Most industry folks would have tossed it aside after the first listen. But Gary Harris, an A&R guy at EMI, heard something real in it, something raw and honest that couldn't be faked. He didn't care that it wasn't perfect. He heard a voice, a tone, a kind of soul that didn't sound like anything else happening in R&B at the time. Once D'Angelo got the deal, he threw himself into the studio. Making that first album wasn't just work, it was an obsession. He wanted control over everything. Every note, every chord, every feeling that came through the speakers. He played most of the instruments himself, layer by layer, over almost 2 years. Some producers got frustrated and walked away. They couldn't keep up with how precise he wanted things to be. For D'Angelo, it wasn't about perfection in a clean sense. It was about feel. Every drum hit, every bass groove needed to breathe like a heartbeat. The title track, Brown Sugar, summed it up perfectly. On the surface, it was a love song, sensual and smooth. But underneath, it was also about the connection between and music, how both could move through your body in the same way. He blurred the line between love, lust, and art.
To me, the strongest motivation on this planet is love, period.
Until it all became one continuous pulse. The sound itself was stripped down. Steady drums, a lazy bass line, and his voice hovering above it all like smoke curling through the air. Nothing flashy, just groove and mood. When the album hit, people realized they were hearing something totally new. He wasn't copying the glossy R&B of the 90s. He was reaching backward and forward at the same time. The warmth of 70s soul met the grit of hip-hop. That mix created what people later came to call neo-soul. The term came from his manager, Kedar Massenburg, but D'Angelo was the living proof of what it meant. Authentic, grounded, and free. Artists like Maxwell, Erykah Badu, and Jill Scott would later carry that same torch. But D'Angelo's Brown Sugar was the spark that lit the fire. It was a reset button for R&B. He brought the human touch back into a genre that was getting too clean, too programmed. Everything he did sounded alive. The record sold over 2 million copies, which was huge for an album that didn't chase commercial formulas. Critics called it groundbreaking. Fans called it soulful. Musicians called it a revelation. His duet with Lauryn Hill on Nothing Even Matters showed how effortlessly he could make vulnerability sound strong. His work with The Roots on Illadelph Half-Life proved he could fit into hip-hop's world without losing his soul roots. But success came with a cost. Fame has a way of twisting things. Suddenly, everyone wanted more from him. The label wanted a quick follow-up. Fans were impatient. But D'Angelo wasn't built for that kind of speed. He moved slowly, on purpose. He wanted every sound to mean something. And as the pressure grew, he started feeling boxed in, not just by deadlines, but by the way people talked about him. It wasn't just about his music anymore. Journalists fixated on his looks, his light skin, and his hair. They turned him into a sex symbol, something he never wanted to be. And that started to change how he saw himself. He began to realize that being a black male artist came with layers of expectation that had nothing to do with what he created. That tension would shape everything that came next. What began as a passion project born in a basement had now become both a triumph and a trap. 5 years passed between albums, long enough for people to stop calling him a rising star and start wondering what happened to him. In that silence, though, he wasn't gone. He was building something, shaping a sound so far ahead of its time that it would change what soul music even meant. So what was he really doing in that studio all those years? Black Messiah proves resurrection. In 2012, after disappearing from the spotlight for almost 10 years, D'Angelo finally stepped back onto the stage, Bonnaroo Music Festival. The crowd didn't quite know what to expect, and to be honest, neither did he. The performance was short and a little hesitant, but something about it hit deep. People who had followed his story could feel it right away. He was trying to find his way back. His voice still carried that same ache and power, but now there was a quietness in him, something that spoke of a man who had been through the fire and somehow made it out. Behind the scenes, that comeback hadn't come easy. He'd been fighting his way out of the habits that almost destroyed him. The drugs, the chaos, the anxiety that fame had poured gasoline on. It all took years to face. Rehab, therapy, long silences. The kind of work that can't be faked. The man who re-emerged wasn't the same one who had walked away after Voodoo. When he started touring Europe in 2012, people didn't see him with wild hysteria anymore. They met him with respect. Stockholm, Paris, every show sold out. The industry that once called him unreliable now saw something else. A survivor, a teacher, a man whose scars carried wisdom. Then came December 2014. No warning, no build-up, just a quiet drop, Black Messiah. He pushed the release 3 weeks early, saying the world needed it right then. Michael Brown, Eric Garner. The protests, the grief. He couldn't stay silent. The album had been 5 years in the making, and one could hear every inch of that time inside it, working with the Vanguard, Pino Palladino, Kendra Foster, and Questlove. He built something that wasn't just about sound. It was about healing, truth, and survival. This time, his music spoke plainly. The charade hit straight at injustice. 1,000 deaths tore scripture open and rewrote it through the lens of black identity. Till It's Done asked what kind of world we're leaving behind. It was full of faith and rage. The album shot to number 5 on the Billboard charts, won a Grammy, and was instantly called a masterpiece.
to surround an R&B song. It was wonderful to work on this project. Thank you very much, D'Angelo. We love you.
He didn't look the same either. He'd put on weight and looked more grounded. Some said it was his way of letting go of those impossible beauty standards that once broke him. He didn't need to be perfect anymore. Interviews showed a man who had made peace with growing older. His workouts and his diet weren't punishment anymore, just care. When he toured again with the Vanguard, it felt different. The spotlight no longer seemed to own him. Instead, he owned his story. But as the music world watched his quiet transformation, one question lingered. Had D'Angelo finally found what he'd been searching for all along? The ripple effect of a soulful genius. After Black Messiah, his influence stretched everywhere. Frank Ocean, Solange, H.E.R., and Kendrick Lamar all named him as a guide. Harvard started studying Voodoo. The Library of Congress added it to the National Recording Registry in 2023, calling it culturally and historically significant. Producers began studying what they called the D'Angelo pocket, that lazy, perfect groove he created by playing just behind the beat. Everybody tried to copy it. Nobody really could. In 2018, he surprised fans again with Unshaken on the Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack. It was stripped down, haunting, almost like a prayer. After that, he slipped back into silence. In those later years, his health began to falter, though few knew. He dealt with fatigue, stomach issues, and things people chalked up to getting older. He kept it private. The success of Black Messiah had bought him that freedom. Enough to move at his own rhythm. When he passed on October 14th, 2025, the world felt it. Questlove described him as someone who changed how we played and how we listened. Erykah Badu called him the heart of the Soulquarian family. Maxwell said he carried the torch. Within 2 days of his death, Voodoo and Black Messiah were back on the charts. Richmond lit candles outside his old church. The Roots played a full tribute on The Tonight Show. A mural appeared near his childhood home, aglow around a piano, just like he used to sit in church. He only made 3 albums, but those 3 were enough. Brown Sugar brought warmth. Voodoo wrestled with identity. Black Messiah spoke to justice and faith. Together, they told one story of a man who believed music could save people. Just as he said, every note had to mean something. Otherwise, it was just noise. Questlove used to say D'Angelo didn't just play in time, he bent it. That could be what he really did with his life too. He left his fans in the groove, and the groove never dies. As people searched for details about D'Angelo's private battle with cancer, a fake statement claiming to be from Michael began circulating online. He later took to Instagram to deny it, expressing his grief and frustration. "I just sat here watching my daddy die after feeling like it was the first time he and I were truly building," he wrote. Michael shared that his father had been there for him after his mother's passing, but sadly admitted time ran out. Addressing the false statement, he explained that while he didn't believe it was done with evil intent, he wasn't emotionally ready to speak publicly. Instead, he asked that all inquiries be directed to his manager. What do you think D'Angelo was trying to say by staying silent about his health struggle instead of making it public? What would you remember about D'Angelo, his music, or his story? Let us know what you think. Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.